I think the type of person that's willing to trade in their life to just make content echoing mainstream establishment corporate news in America in exchange for a following on social media, already kind of a weird dude. And probably the kind of dude that would do something like this. But there are so many people that are making content that are attracted to that kind of like influencing thing that get validation from getting pics from girls. I can't even tell you how many male influencer types do this.
Hey guys, welcome back to FY Pod. I'm Tim Miller.
I'm Cameron Caskey.
And we're here with yet another friend of Cameron. Unclear if they're bisexual. So far, all of Cameron's friends have been bisexual, I think. And I'm very excited to meet her. I could tell from a brief social media glance, is Marxist adjacent, which is exciting. We're going to hit the whole ideological spectrum over the next 2 weeks because I think we have a MAGA guest coming next week. So I'm very excited to meet Jessica Burbank. What's up, girl?
Thanks for not calling me liberal. You've got a good political education, if you know that.
Yeah, I'm the lib now. I'm the lib, and you guys are different.
So Jessica and I met at a conference last year called Trending Up that was all content creators, and I sort of prided myself on being the non-content creator there. And suddenly it's been a year and I am a content creator and I surrender. But Jessica, at the time,
there's no shame in the content game, Cameron. Don't hate, love yourself, okay?
If you can't beat him, join him. I now have this like elaborate mic setup. It's happening off camera. I don't want to put it on camera and mess with it. But now anybody who comes to my apartment is just going to know that I'm a podcaster, and it's whatever. It's fine. But anyway, Jessica, at the time that we met, I believe you were hosting a show for some news platform that was you and some MAGA or MAGA adjacent gentlemen pretty much debating the whole time.
Yeah. Right-wing libertarian Robbie Suave. The Hills Rising.
Oh, it was Robbie Suave. Oh, yeah. I missed that content.
Yeah.
And this
that
is
guy's
not
kind of annoying.
This is not a porn star's name. This is a person who is not making OnlyFans content.
I think it's his legal name.
I don't know if I'm certain that he's not making OnlyFans content. He does post kind of like lascivious selfies on Twitter.
What's lascivious? Is that a book in the Bible?
Close. That's Leviticus. Lascivious is like, I don't know, kind of like a Winnie the Pooh in a tuxedo way of saying sexy.
Ooh.
It's true. He does do that. Yeah. But Cameron, we knew you were a content creator before you knew you were a content creator. Just based on the stuff you say and how plugged in you are to the internet. Some of us are just born with this curse.
Yeah.
Jessica, I want to hear about the Robbie Suave pod, but for those who like me don't know you, can we do like a quick first date thing? Like you just kind of tell us where you're from, what your passions are.
Yeah. I grew up in the tri-state area in a pretty working class family in kind of like a pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality, like that kind of conservatism where you don't understand anything about politics, but it seems right. And I ended up going to trade school, getting lucky, going to college, studying politics.
You went to trade school for like what? For like TV VCR repair or what?
For agri-science. I was in the FFA.
Whoa.
Yeah. Which it is a thing in Stamford, Connecticut. We had like aquaculture and greenhouses and stuff. We weren't like total farmers, but we were understood to be like the farm kids. And
Tim, just so you know, the FFA is the Future Farmers of America.
Thanks. I was suburbs, so I
learned that.
I thought you said FAA, and I mixed it up in my head. I was like, I don't know why the FAA would care about agriculture.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. Teach them young to be pilots because DEI is a problem, right?
Yeah, big problem. So wait, so what do you learn there? Like what as an FFA agri-scientist, like what are you doing?
Yeah, you learn how plants grow. You learn how to farm fish. We had a floriculture lab. I competed in floral art. I was number 1 in Connecticut State. But
in floral art?
In floral art is a big
deal. So it's like a flower crown, like a Coachella flower crown, or?
Yeah, all of that stuff. Flower crowns, table pieces, wedding bouquets. I made a dress out of flowers one time. It was a lot of fun. I didn't like regular class, so that was really fun for me. But I also did like public speaking about Monsanto Seed Corporation and how corporate farming was crushing farms in the US. And that was like my gateway into politics. And so from there, studied public policy and stuff, ended up working for a law firm, hated it, ended up going back to bartending and organizing for a while. And then was on the Sanders campaign after that. COVID happened, so we were trapped inside. I just started making content, and from there, got picked up by networks, including The Hill, where they just had two hosts, a left chair on the left side of things, a right chair on the right side of things, and they make you argue about the daily news.
And now you're a drop site with those commies?
Yeah, now I'm doing real investigative journalism. It's crazy.
Like what? What's something you've done lately?
Yeah. So recently, sometimes it's picking up stories that are not getting any national attention. Like there was a Luigi Mangione copycat. But sometimes it's there's a guy, Leo Hannian, who reported misleading stories about how raising the minimum wage was causing job losses in California. And he published a ton of data that was a total misuse and miscalculation with Bureau of Labor Statistics data. So going back and redoing all of his calculations and analysis to prove him wrong, stuff like that.
Sebastian, we need a Mario Brothers sound effect, I think, for the pod whenever anybody brings up Luigi.
Mamma mia!
We can't get away from Luigi, no matter
That'll be
how
good.
hard
No. You can't get away from Luigi.
Me?
I have been living blissfully unburdened by Luigi. I know you didn't do it this time, but for those of you who listen to the show, Tim and I sidebar during the week just to chat, see how everybody's doing, talk about topics. And we had a conversation before the 4th episode where I said, Tim, if we could just not talk about Luigi for once, because we've talked about Luigi 3 episodes in a row. And
it is a good kind of barometer for people who are trying to learn about the guests. Are you pro vigilante murder or not? It's just a good check. It's no matter seeing which side you fall is kind of
Jessica, what happened with the copycat? Somebody shot another healthcare guy?
Yeah, in a suburb of Portland, Chip Terhune, he's the CEO of SAFE, which is an acronym. I don't know what it stands for, SAIF, but it's basically the largest workers' comp insurance agency in Oregon. And they shot through his front door. So it wasn't they weren't obviously trying to kill him. He's probably not behind his front door. It was 3 a.m. But seems like kind of an intimidation.
Was the shooter, do we know the shooter?
They have this Bigfoot-looking picture of someone in a hoodie. You can't see their face or anything. They're not going to find that guy. And national news didn't pick it up. And I think it's because they're trying to discourage copycat Luigis.
That could be.
Yeah.
Maybe there's just because there's not much to say, not much there. We don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that isn't getting picked up. Did you see Ken Klippenstein's Substack about the plans to go to war with Iran?
No, I did not.
Yeah, apparently the Pentagon seems to be getting ready for a much more widespread war with Iran than we might have thought. And while that does sound like it could be some sort of sensationalism, it is worth noting that on any given issue, any given geopolitical national issue, Trump has kind of established at this point that he is going to do the most radical thing possible. So while his airstrikes on the Houthis might seem a bit more like a continuation of what Uncle Joey was doing, there's a chance from some documents that came out that they might be indicative of a more wide-scale effort to go to war with the folks in Iran. So that's an interesting thing. Let me ask, how do you find the stories that aren't getting reported on?
I get a signal message from someone who's been following me on social media. They're like, hey, I live in Portland. This thing happened. No one's talking about it. And I'm like, thank you so much. I will report on this. It's really crazy because I started off just making TikToks about things I was interested in politics. And now that I have this following, it's so useful for journalism because they care so much about stories that are close to where they live. And they want to make sure they get out and become national stories. So it's kind of very convenient to have this network of people that have the same interests as me that are tipping me off to follow these news stories. So it's literally just a signal message or a DM.
What would you say is the people trying to do flirtations and pickup lines to breaking story ratio?
Unfortunately, it's like 50-50. I've had to block so many people.
That's
on
better than I
Signal.
thought, actually. I thought you were going to be like 80-20.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, DMs are different from like the actual Signal line where
Sure.
it says news tips here.
Do you post your Signal line?
I do. Yeah.
What is it? Tell us.
KA
Okay, so if you're a watcher and you're kind of into Jessica's, are we going by Ka? What are you going by? I guess I should have started with that.
Jessica,
Jessica,
doesn't matter.
Ka. Okay.
There's some pretty.
If you're liking her vibe, you could signal her. We have been taking tips, thebulwark.com/tips from government workers reporting on Doge, and it's been like pretty astonishing with the stories we've gotten out of it and what you hear. And obviously, like a lot of folks that know government workers are government workers that watch us. So hook up Jessica, hook up us, tip us.
It's a leaky government. I'll get a leak from like a FEMA worker, and then like the next week I'll get another leak of a meeting where they've recorded people saying don't record this meeting, and they're telling them not to leak anything they're saying. It's beautiful. It's really great how open they are. They don't care anymore. I think they're just sad about the position they're in.
You'd be leaking too if your boss was like Dan Bongino. Like I've been fucking working my whole life arresting like rapists and putting my life in danger for the government, and now I've got to like report to a rage monkey podcast host. That hurts.
Hegseth just slugging back whiskey behind the podium.
I think Pete's sober
If
now.
Trump is going to be appointing podcast hosts to stuff, Tim, I think we should get our due. I think you and I should have control over some sort of missiles.
I think so too. Well, I mean, this kind of takes us to. I wanted to. We're gonna spend most of this episode on Harry Sisson. So if you've come here wanting to hear about Harry Sisson's love life, you've come to the right place. But I did want to argue with Jessica about socialism a little bit. So I think that like which one of us can become the defense secretary next time is kind of going to be dependent on where Dems go. I noticed that you tweeted you wanted an AOC Bernie ticket. It's a pretty old VP. So I will just throw that out there. And I think I think that if that happens, if AOC is the president, if we continue to have a democracy, Jessica as Secretary of State sounds good. If like, I don't know, some moderate governor, if like Josh Shapiro or Wes Moore become president, I think like I'm right in there for Secretary of Treasury. I don't know, Cam, who you're riding. I don't know who are you riding to the cabinet, do you think?
Josh Shapiro autographed a bomb like it was a headshot at a Comic-Con. So I can't say that
you're not going for him for his cabinet.
No, when somebody's treating bombs like something that you autograph, I'm like, you know what? I don't want that guy to control our nukes. So sorry, Mr. Shapiro. I guess the terrible things that people who have worked with you have to say about you might very well be true. The interesting thing about AOC is that an awful lot of people seem to be seeing her as the strongest leader in the party right now. I don't know if you've been seeing those polls that have been coming out talking about how, especially in the wake of everything that happened with Schumer, a lot of people are saying AOC is the bolder leader of the party right now. And at this point, I'm just waiting to see who in the next couple of years is going to step up, because whoever steps up more than however much they align with me, farther to the left, closer to the center, wherever it may be, I just want to see somebody with leadership skills. I want to see somebody who's willing to fight. And, not only do I not think Sanders is the choice, I don't think Sanders thinks he's the choice. I think Bernie's doing what he's doing out of a sense of obligation.
I'm hearing Cory Booker. You want somebody showing real leadership skills.
What is he even doing at this point? He's not dating.
He's TikToking. He's jogging around and like kind of breathlessly TikToking about how like we should be positive right now. Like positivity is really important in this moment.
Well, I would love to try whatever he's smoking.
With his beady eyes. His eyes are always like this. Have you seen his TikToks? Disconcerting.
He's probably just locked in. No, I mean, I want someone who
he's locked in on the talk. Yeah.
Hell yeah, gang. I want someone who can display leadership skills. I think Bernie has done a really great job trying to cultivate some sense of energy with these rallies that he's doing. Tim Walz is doing these rallies as well. Ro Khanna is doing this type of stuff, especially since the Republican Party seems to be telling their officials that they should not do public town halls anymore, which is pretty concerning and bad. I do think the Democrats who are out there trying to, like I said, cultivate energy are the people that I'm going to want to see in leadership roles. Whereas the Democrats who are, for example, hosting podcasts with Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, sucking them off, I don't think I'm going to want to see in leadership positions. I think
interesting.
Yeah.
So the Newsom hog ticket is maybe not on the top of your list right now. Jessica, what? Talk to us about the AOC Bernie. Why?
It's like it's my compromise ticket, right? Imagine
really?
the liberal world we are in.
Who are you compromising with?
Like, I think if I could just like pick out of anyone, it would be, someone like Sean Fain, someone like Dan Osborne, someone who's not afraid to stand up to corporate power with a real understanding of labor in America. AOC, she has a lot of the populist ideas, but she has an appeal with liberals, so I think that's fine. But I don't see her as someone who like fundamentally understands what it's like to grow up very working class in America, right? She kind of sells as that, but she went to one of the best high schools in the country. She was in the Hudson Valley. She wasn't in the Bronx and Queens her whole life. And so I think we need someone who understands like the real rough realities of America. But so
I want to come
like
back to that, but can you just, because you kind of scooted by this when you're giving us your little backstory at dating, but tell us about that. I mean, you said you would grow up working class. Like what was your childhood like?
Yeah, so I grew up. Neither of my parents have college degrees. My dad, we're an Italian American family, so he took whatever job he could get, whether it was like driving box trucks in and out of Manhattan. He sold wine grapes on the side of the highway, and he ended up getting a pretty stable job in construction. But when the financial crisis hit and the housing market crashed, he was out of work. And my mom ended up, doing bookkeeping for small businesses and nonprofits in the area. So there was never like any real stability. Like we struggled. My sister didn't go to college. She's still bartending. It was looking like that was going to be like my life, right? So very, very, as you picture working class as like no college education. I was the first in my family to get a college degree. And it was really hard to afford stuff. And I never thought I was going to make it out. But I got really lucky with Pell Grants and scholarships. So I'm like one of the rare cases in America today of someone who is socially mobile. So seeing both of those worlds, like most of the people in our politics talking about who should run and making political strategy have no idea what life is like for the majority of Americans. So like now being in political commentary, I'm always super critical of like just the options we have because it's so different from someone in America could actually relate to. And like I still feel that even though now like I have an Ivy League degree and a comfortable job, but it's still a part of me.
I have two questions. One, did your dad didn't consider organized crime as an alternative?
He didn't. Okay. No. Although you can imagine like the wine grapes had to go through Chicago, even though they were getting shipped from California. So he's not part of like the violent mob, but it's still not the formal economy.
He could have hung out with Christopher. What do you think? So, okay, I love this because I think that though our probably economic platforms are going to be very different, our preferred economic platforms. I do think that our critique of the Democratic Party having too many like college educated libs who don't know what's happening in the real world and like sat in the front row of the class and were valedictorian like is a big problem. And so I'm wondering, I don't know how familiar you are with Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez in Washington. Like she is interesting because she's kind of a moderate Dem, but very working class. She works at like a auto repair shop, I think, in Oregon. You should check her out. But she has a rule which I loved, which is she was like, no Ivy League kids or no Ivy League on my staff. Like nobody on the Ivy League. And she had a couple of other rules about the staff, like how the staff had to be people that like came from the real world. But she is more, kind of in, I don't know. I guess I don't really know. More kind of in like a blue dog working class mold rather than like a DSA working class mold, if you know what I mean. And I just kind of wonder, and Osborne kind of blends those two a little bit. And you mentioned him. So I'm just kind of wondering how you think about that.
Yeah, like where do I fall? Who do I
Yeah, sure. Or
identify?
like, does that, or like, what are you prioritizing, right? Like, would you, I mean, I guess if you liked Osborne that much, it seems like you could be attracted to somebody that like that is going after corporate power, is centers working class concerns, but maybe isn't necessarily like as far left as say Bernie or whatever. And that would be more appealing than like a, whatever, neolib, like woke neolib.
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't think you need to have the sort of like, theory education of being a leftist, and you need to understand like every issue full fledged. I think you need to be someone that's willing to listen to the working class, and you have the trust of working people because you lived it. I think a lot of people are more likely to get to Washington and sell out because they didn't live through it. They don't have that experience that like, people are struggling to survive in America, and it's a matter of life or death. It's not something you can trade for speaking fees and lobbying money and a career. Like, you've actually got to get into power and then use it to fight back against corporations. So that's why like someone like Dan, like that's the test for me, is are you someone who will not compromise on anything to stand up to corporate power and people who keep the working class in that position? That's all I really care about. So it's more of like their decision-making structure. What are their priorities? Not so much, do they have the theory? Do they understand, Marx and Lenin? Have they done the reading? I care less about that than someone's like values.
Have you done the reading?
I have done the reading. Yeah.
Okay. Like Little Red Book, all of it, the whole deal.
I read a leaflet that somebody handed me when I was at Columbia, and I was like, oh, this seems good.
That was enough. You're kind of more of a headline, subhead, lead type reader. You just want to kind of get the gist. I do tell you,
the gist.
Are you AI? Where are you on AI? I'm pretty anti AI. I'm pretty scared of AI. But I got to tell you, one of my favorite things about AI as a podcaster is it is helping me seem less dumb. So like when I know I'm interviewing somebody and I know I want to talk about like a book, I can just be like, will you tell me what happened in, the fourth turning or whatever? And I do think that's nice.
Yeah. I like using AI for like color analysis. You know about this? This is a big thing among the TikTokers. So it's like your skin tone has an undertone, and like your eye color, you can be like cool undertone, warm undertone, and you feed the color codes on a photo to ChatGPT, and it will tell you the best colors of clothes that you can wear. I've done this. I've shopped for the pieces that are the right colors. Makes a big difference.
What colors are best for you?
For that. I'm cool undertone, so I'm now a summer. So I wear like pinks, blues, light pastels, and yeah, I have to change my wardrobe now. But my cousin's in autumn, so we're swapping clothes. It's good fun. So AI has improved my life in that way. Do I think it's going to replace all of our labor? No. I like the whole thing of like, AI should not be making art. AI should be doing the boring tasks that we don't want to do.
But this seems to be the problem, right? That like we're going to have to keep doing laundry, and AI is going to, do the creative stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I want to argue with you about Zoran really quick, if you don't mind. Because I had some leftists yelling at me on the internet this morning right before we started taping. So you're going to be a stand-in for the people on Twitter that I'm mad at. Okay. He did a video, which we'll put in the show notes for people. This is like the DSA guy running for mayor. It's a real doozy of mayor's candidates in your city, Cam. You've got like Andrew Cuomo, sex pest. You have the current mayor, who loves, who you love, Cameron, I know. And then, we've got this guy, who his video is that in order for to deal with grocery prices, we're going to have the government run grocery stores. Government is just going to run the grocery stores. We're going to have a public option for produce, he said. Marxist mangoes. That's what he's going for. I don't think that's a very good idea. I live in New Orleans. Our mayor is very dumb and very bad at their job. I think they would do a very poor job of running the grocery store. I think Costco is probably a better bet for getting cheap groceries than having the mayor of New Orleans run our grocery stores. But tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, I think because the government has been defunded so much, we've seen public programs be delivered poorly. Like our first experience is the DMV, right? So when we picture anything government run, we picture something going awfully. But I do think there's a market failure when it comes to providing high quality food to people in DC. Or in NYC, there's so many food deserts, people grocery shopping at bodegas. So like, what do you do when the market's not providing an essential basic necessity? That's a classic scenario where any economist would say the state needs to step in and address this market failure. Does it have to be a city-run grocery store? No. It could be municipal bonds financing, and different grocery companies have to bid to get the contract. I think something like that could work. But definitely,
It's
there
like
needs to be
taxi medallions for groceries.
No,
Grocery store
I don't know.
medallions.
I don't think it would be that, but I think it could be like municipal bonds to front the capital to open grocery stores in areas where they're needed. Because if the private market is not seeing this as a profitable endeavor, do people just live without accessible groceries? That seems stupid. That seems like a dysfunctional economy. So we've got to try something.
Cameron, where are you at on Eric Adams run grocery stores?
All I can really say there is a reporter asked why Eric Adams believes in due process for himself, but not apparently for Mahmoud Khalil. The mayor dodges the question. The immigration deportation, how that's carried out, is the federal government's job, says Adams. Then the mayor says the following, re Khalil. What I'm finding surprising is the level of support you're all displaying, but I didn't see that support for me. And all I can say, Eric Adams, is that self-victimization is such me behavior. I gotta hand it to you. That's exactly how I would feel. I don't know if I would say that, but being like, you're all supporting Mahmoud Khalil, but you weren't there for me when I was getting ousted for corruption, that's pretty funny. As for the grocery stores, I think that people should have access to groceries, and I'm willing to debate that.
Okay, good. We all agree people should have access to groceries. Okay, I don't know that we need to do a seminar on it. We can just kind of let the listeners tell us who they think is right. The Eric Adams me behavior that I saw yesterday that I have to say is he was like at an event on the end of the subway line, and he begins the event talking about how much he loves this community. I forget what the community is. He goes, because I used to have a shorty out here and I'd have to ride on the subway all the way out in the cold on the A train and wearing my coat to come see my shorty and come get a little. I was like, all right, Eric Adams, that's a good way to start a speech, talking about the side piece that you had a long time ago.
I think now that he sort of like our friend Benjamin Netanyahu, friend of the show, I think that he has sort of been given this golden ticket by Trump to just be as unhinged as he would ever want, you know, like the sort of clique that is Adams, Netanyahu, Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, Conor McGregor. They've all sort of gotten, I imagine Trump has sent them a message that's like, hey man, you could just let it rip. Like you could just fucking send it, dude. Like say the worst shit possible. I will have your back. And I think that has sort of unlocked this side of Eric Adams. I mean, Eric Adams has always been weird. He's always been an oddball. During the mayoral debate back in 2021, he was quoted talking about how he loves putting rose petals in his baths, which was interesting. Yeah, I think if you're in a mayoral race and Andrew Yang is not the most odd person there, you're really dealing with some interesting stuff. But yeah, I think Adams is who he's always been. I mean, he's the mayor of New York. New York is the Mexico City of America. New York is the Toronto of America. New York, you get the point.
I'm ready to move on to Harry Sisson. I've just been dying about it. But do you two, do the Zoomers have any other political chat that you guys need to get off your chest before we move on to Harry Sisson?
Harry Sisson is what's on our chest.
Okay, great. Yeah, you know that. He wants to be at least. All right. For people who don't know what we're talking about, Harry Ghazi is what I'm calling it. It's my favorite story of the week. Harry Sisson is a 22, 3, 4-year-old, just generic white male who became successful on social media by parroting whatever the DNC wanted him to say. It's a fucking move. All right. And so no shame in the game for Harry, but he's bumped into some trouble, and I'm going to give the backstory, and then I'm going to let you guys give me the view from the Zoomers. Republican activist Sarah Fields posted a thread on X that's kind of kicked this all off. about Harry. She said that she had 11 sources. Harry had convinced 11 different women that he, quote, had no roster and, quote, respected them for more than their bodies, while persuading them to send explicit photos of themselves through Snapchat, including one of the 11 was a domestic abuse survivor. Carly, one of Harry's victims, victim is the word she uses, has described the situation in the most detail. Carly says Harry wooed her from the very beginning and convinced her that he respected her for more than physical appearance. She said even though she's embarrassed to admit it, she created a private chat to chat with Harry on Snapchat that was meant for his eyes only. Harry told her she was wifey material and was sold on her wife applications. After 6 months of this behavior, he told her he didn't want a commitment. Directly after this, Harry posted a photo of a thirst trap of him and his new girlfriend on TikTok. Carly had recently been through a traumatic car accident and was dealing with depression at the time. She was upset. I have a few more of the embarrassing flirts to read, but I want your initial impression of Harry Ghazi.
Can I try one more intro?
Please.
Okay, so you know those white boys that you saw posting selfies with Joe Biden and being like, Joe Biden is the president for Gen Z. I'm Gen Z, I'm 21 years old, and I'm so excited to cast my vote for Joe Biden. So when I was saying, hey,
Dark
Joe
Brandon.
Biden, you're dying, you need to drop out of the election, and everybody was writing me on the internet, ooh, you're basically MAGA, ooh, you're just a tool for MAGA, you're just parroting what MAGA says. And then suddenly Joe Biden is dragged out of the race kicking and screaming, and everyone's like, thank you, Joe, you did great, Joe. They all forgot who was originally saying that this needs to happen. So let's keep that in mind. Harry is famous for his viral posts about how I am 21, I am white, I am male, and I am proud to cast my vote for Joseph Robinette Biden. And it was really funny, and it was really cringe, and really anybody, because there's a difference between doing what I did, which was saying, you know, I don't align with Biden, but Trump is so disastrous that of course I'm going to cast my vote for Joe. And then being like, Joe Biden is the Gen Z president, you know? Don't worry, you can't even say okay boomer to Biden because he's actually from the silent generation. All this is to say, Sisson has really solidified himself as one of those white boys for Harris. And he is sort of that type of, he's what a lot of my friends characterize me as, you know, that cringe, white, liberal, loser that all my friends tell me that I am in my group chats. That's Harry Sisson. And we have found out that he is a huge fuckboy. Now, I am nervous to cast too much judgment upon him because in this short life I've had on the planet Earth, I think there's a lot of smart, credible, intelligent people who would say that I've been a bit of a fuckboy. I can't say that I've ever been juggling 11 young women at the same time. I don't think you should ask for pics. I understand that when there's consenting adults involved, whatever pics they send are their own business. This does not apply to Grindr. Grindr is the Wild West. But, you know, with young women, if you're juggling 11 at a time, don't ask for pics. That's my first message to Harry Sisson. I think we should have him on the show to do sort of a fuckboy intervention. One thing that was left out of the intro was that Harry went on to call at least one of these women who had some things to say about him crazy. And that, to me, is the big sin of this whole matter. You know, juggling 11 chicks, not good. I don't think you should be asking for pics. I don't think, and you're going to read some of the stuff he said. I don't love it. But in my opinion, the true sin here, Harry, if you're listening to this, which, you know, a lot of really smart people do, you don't call him crazy. You know, if you're going to be a fuckboy, do what so few men do and take responsibility, own up to it, and be like, yeah, I'm a fuckboy. Frankly, we need more fuckboys to come over to our side of the aisle anyway. And don't call him crazy.
I want to summarize Cameron's opinion first, really quick, before I get to Jessica. In short, on the matter of Harry Sisson, Biden shill, bad. Fuckboy, good. Calling ladies crazy, bad. That's a summary of your lengthy monologue about Harry Sisson. Jessica, where are you at? Actually, before we get to Jessica, I want to read two of his embarrassing flirts. One was, I'd fuck you after wine tasting. The other one was, God, that ass is fat. So there are a couple of the flirts that he sent on Snapchat. What do you think?
Remember when Adam, the guy that's in Maroon 5, had his DMs leaked with that woman that was like, God, you're so hot. Like, have you ever seen your own old text messages? Like, I'll even see text messages now looking for some kind of, I don't know, flight confirmation between me and my boyfriend. And I see the things we say to each other and I'm like, God, that's so embarrassing that we say those things. So I think any flirtatious text messages out of context, out of emotion, just so cringe every time. So totally I don't want to hate on him for that, but I'll hate on him for a few other things. I think the type of person that's willing to trade in their life to just make content echoing mainstream establishment corporate news in America in exchange for a following on social media, already kind of a weird dude. And probably the kind of dude that would do something like this. But there are so many people that are making content that are attracted to that kind of like influencing thing that get validation from getting pics from girls. I can't even tell you how many male influencer types do this. And like, it is their game. Like they want to talk to you. They want to flirt with you. They lie to you about their relationship status and they get pics. I don't know what it is. Super common.
Jessica, I want you to tell me if I have an opinion that's bad right now. Okay. So I'm about to share my opinion. I want your reaction.
Okay.
As a woman.
Yeah. I'm
looking at this story and I got to tell you, I think the bad person is Sarah Fields, who is posting this story. I don't, he's calling these women Harry's victims. Harry didn't victimize anybody. All he did, and he lied to them, but like, that's not good. I'm against lying. Radical candor is the policy on this podcast, but like he lied to them, but he didn't victimize anybody. There's no evidence that he showed. Nobody's claiming that he showed the naked pics to anybody else. Nobody is suggesting that he groomed them. Like nobody is suggesting, I mean, he's young, so nobody is suggesting that he like did anything, that he sexually harassed anybody against their will. It seems like most of these women were enjoying the flirtation. And so like, what is it? Like what is it? I don't know. It feels very like prudish and strange for like some Republican to like then like go after this guy and be like, he is a sex pest and he victimized people because he sent Snapchats like asking for nudes. Like I don't see what, I mean, he seems kind of annoying, but and like a little sleazy, but like he didn't victimize anybody, did he?
Yeah, I think so many of our conversations in politics are the result of us not having enough words in the English language, right? Because victim implies a crime happened. Did he do something wrong? Yeah, he was dishonest. He was like, you're the only girl I'm talking to. Let's engage in sexual relations. And so did the girl make informed consent in sending the pic? She thought it was just her and Harry. That's dishonest. It's bad. It's not something you should do. Did you commit a crime? No. But in the court of public opinion, are you going to be tried for bad behavior? Yes. But is victim the perfect word? Probably not. But is there a better one?
Was it not a consent? I mean, it was kind of consent. He asked them. It's not like he forced them to do it.
Well, it was consent under the impression that they were the only one. So it's still consent. In
some of these cases, they hadn't even met. Like, it's not like, I mean, I don't know, man. If you're a 22-year-old woman and some fuckboy influencer is texting you and being like, you're the one for me, I love you, and you've never met, you're the only one I'm messaging. I mean, come on. No, you really think that's real?
I mean, if you watch the videos of these young women sharing their stories, pretty much all of them add a note relatively quickly that's like, yeah, I should not have believed this in the first place. So it's not like they aren't aware of the matter.
Yeah.
But, when there's somebody with a certain amount of power and influence, not that I don't think he has any material power, but when you have X amount of followers online, the way the way the world works now, Tim, I hate to deliver it to you. Things like big online followings are a bit of a status symbol. So I'm not saying this is Jay Gatsby staring off into the green light of social media. But, he has a certain amount of social power that he can leverage in one way or another. So, no, I don't think these people were particularly victimized, but it's sort of a bit of a fuck around and find out situation. If you're going to go out there and get a platform, presumably may be making money, presumably be making a good amount of it with that kind of following, you are going to get in trouble for shit that liberals get in trouble for. So if Harry Sisson was a conservative and this news leaked, the conservative world would be saying, my fucking dog. Hell yeah, man. But we, the liberals, would be saying the same stuff we're saying about Harry Sisson or worse. So for me, it's like, listen, kind of similar to what Jessica said, there's a bit of a Faustian deal here. You know, if you're going to sell your soul to the liberal world and have people, frankly, of like the age of our audience, Tim, if you're gonna be making, you know, a big splash with those people, you're gonna be held accountable for behavior that people on the right are not necessarily going to be held accountable for.
Here's this guy, Homie Dino. I've been deep in the Harry Sisson thing on X. I have no idea who Homie Dino is. They might be terrible. I don't care. We gave a good opinion here. The Harry Sisson thing is so infuriating because it reinforces the belief that straight men are not welcome in the Democratic Party. He didn't assault or harass anyone. Hell, everything was consensual. You should be allowed to be horny and a Democrat. Fucking ridiculous. What make you of that? Should you be allowed to be horny and a Democrat and a white guy?
You can be horny, but just be honest. Like, Harry didn't have to say. If Harry really had the juice like that, he would not have to say, you're the only girl I'm talking to. Right? Why did he have to manipulate women in order to send the picture? Why do you have to be dishonest? You can be horny, but be honest. It's easy.
Horny and candid and honest.
You know, Sisson Gate is unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Harry Ghazi is what I'm going with.
Harry Ghazi, the thing is, that sounds like the name of a guy. Like, I might have very well met a gentleman named Harry Ghazi once and said, hello, sir, how are you? Sisson Gate, I think, especially if you're deliberately pronouncing it incorrectly, I think like that...
Siegfried Sassoon.
I don't even know what that means.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I will say something.
Yeah.
Is this not good for the culture, though, that someone who is a news personality is cool enough to have the clout to just reach out to women and be like, send me pics, and they do it. They're like, oh my god, it's Harry the newsman. That's good that now we see news personalities as cool in society. That's
maybe more young men will say, wait a second, if I espouse cringe liberal views, perhaps I will be able to juggle 11 chicks and call them crazy.
Exactly. This is how we do it. This has been something we've been talking about on this pod for a while. How do we make being a cringe resist lib cool again? And this might be it.
If we get like 12 more, if we get like 12 more Harry Sissons who have Harry's similar shit-eating grin of like, then I think the midterms in 2026 are going to be a fucking massacre. Just kidding. I don't think there's going to be.
Which of the TikTok boys do you like the best? Of Harry and Parker and blonde one?
I don't know
the other
of these.
With the butt part.
Harry's the only one I know. I see these white twink boys and I think that they're funny, and sometimes I share the videos and DM them to people. Videos where very often I agree with what they're saying, but I DM them to my friends like LMAO, like, let's grab this kid by the ankles, shake him upside down and take his pennies and dollars for lunch money. Because these are kids that you want to shove in a locker, even if, and they're very often saying things that I totally align with. You know, you want to bully them a little bit. And I wasn't a bully in high school. I was very friendly to people generally when I wasn't having a bipolar meltdown, and when I wasn't running a multi-million-dollar nonprofit. But yeah, it's a big blow to the liberal world. I almost want sort of a spiritual funeral for the sanctity of the Sisson brand, the type of thing that has like someone with a bagpipe, maybe a 21. Well, wouldn't want to do a 21 gun salute because it's the Democratic Party, but something similar. And I hope that the Sisson brand,
snaps.
21 like poetry reading snaps. Yeah. But I hope the Sisson brand is, restored by the time he's old enough to run. Because I'm ready to see this guy swallowing it up on MSNBC.
Yeah, same. Okay. My last item on this, to your point on their audience cam, I received a text. I unfortunately think I have to keep the actual musician private, but it is a very successful 1990s alternative band that none of you will have ever heard of. The lead singer of them texted me a video of one of the other twinks, not Harry, and was like, "This is our secret weapon."
What
I'm like,
band?
sorry, no, this is the secret weapon for appealing to 55-year-old libs. That's what it's a secret weapon for. But we're already good there.
Okay.
So anyway, do you have any final thoughts on the TikTok twinks, Jessica, before we get to Boomer Mailbag?
Yeah, the one thing I will say is there is, I know we've talked about this, but I just want the audience to know how real it is.
Okay.
That the Democratic Party has their claws in news influencers and is trying to influence the narrative they tell and how they tell news stories. I talked about one of Ken Klippenstein's stories. It was a leak from within the government. Yeah. It seemed like it came from the State Department based on what it was, but it was essentially that the TikTok ban is going to be disregarded by any Biden State Department. They're going to stay on it, monitoring content, paying influencers to put content out. And I got a message from a news influencer that has pictures with Biden at the White House that was like, that story's fake. I just talked to the leaker. It's not real. And I said, wait a minute. There's a screenshot of internal communications. There's no way this story could have been misunderstood by Ken or falsified unless you're saying this screenshot's fake. And they said, no, I talked to the leaker in X department. They say that it's not real. And I said, Ken, I got this message. He said, well, that's not where my source is from. So this person's just straight up lying to you, trying to get you to take down this news story that makes the Biden administration look bad. And so that's how incestuous the liberal Democrat news influencers are.
The news influencers,
it's very real.
The fake news influencer space is really bad. And it's like, and I do think this is one of the things where everybody's like, oh, we hate the New York Times. We hate the establishment corporate media. For all the flaws of the establishment corporate media, they weren't doing just total regime propaganda, and the news influencers that showed up at the DNC and stuff after, and who were still circling the wagons for Biden after he stroked out on the debate stage, like that was just regime propaganda. And so you got to be grateful for what you got. we can make our existing institutions better, but not just because it's new doesn't make it better.
This happens on both sides of the aisle.
I mean, like the entire Republican news influencer thing is propaganda.
Totally. I'm talking about the selfie industrial complex, because a lot of the young Democratic influencers I know, many of whom I meet with, speak with, exchange with here or there, perhaps at the type of conference at which Jessica and I met, perhaps at social gatherings, whatever it may be, you can tell a lot of these young people who at least were shilling for Biden long after we knew that he did not possess the mental capacity to run for president. A lot of them are doing it because they get invited to the White House to take selfies with Joe. They love their selfies with Joe. They love posting pics from the White House. And I get it. It's like slay. But I call it the selfie industrial complex. I think a lot of the Harry Sissonian influencers of my age, a big motivating factor for them is the pictures they're able to get with certain politicians for social media. So, take that for what it's worth.
I like that. We'll leave a selfie industrial complex there. Okay, we've gone long. We'll go rapid fire through Boomer Mailbag and Gen Z News. Boomer Mailbag. If you're a boomer and you have questions for 24-year-olds, email us, bulwarkpodcast@thebulwark.com. This is from A. Dean. I'm 78, but inside I feel like I'm still 24. I have 9 grandchildren, 4 of whom are Zoomers. They are all wonderful. I'm addicted to my phone, and I met my husband and my best friend online. Do you feel like we change as we age, or just stay the same person? It's a deep, deep question from A. Dean. Jessica, we'll start with you.
For real. That's what I do every day, minus the 9 grandchildren. So apparently not. Apparently we're the same inside and we just get wrinkly on the outside.
Cam, do you have any thoughts on rating?
I think we all mature in different directions at different speeds. I think everybody grows and changes with time. And I think we all also hold on to many of the things that made us who we were as children. So I look back at myself when I was 16 and I say, that's a completely different person. But if you ask my best friend, Hannah, what is Cameron like compared to when he was 16? She would say, oh, he's the same guy. So I think that, we grow and change in many different directions with time. And we also stay true to many of the core elements of ourselves. And I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people make in their adult life is they think there's an age at which you're finally an adult and you stop growing. And I think a lot of people could benefit from coming to some sort of understanding that even as you get older, even as you enter your 40s, 50s, 60s, your body's done growing. You know, maybe your brain is done growing, but, and I hate to get, you know, weird, like false medical spirit influencer here, but in all truth, your spirit can always grow, and your understanding of other people and the degree to which you're willing to learn about new things about the world, those things can always grow. There's no point at which your heart and soul stop growing. And also, why the fuck are you asking 24-year-olds if we change over time? I was 14 1 decade ago.
I feel like my dad said this to me one day, and this is one thing that I definitely feel to be true, is he said wisdom is just learning to trust your gut and intuition and act on it. And that really is something that I think has changed as I've gotten older, is like learning to trust that and trust myself. And then you make better decisions that are more aligned with like who you are on the outside instead of outside expectations. I feel like that's the one good thing about aging.
You guys are great. We should just change this. Fuck politics. We should just start doing advice column show. My advice for you, Aideen, is put down your phone. Set some rules for yourself. 4 hours a day. No phone. Don't have it in a different room. Read a book. So hang out with your grandchildren. It'll do you good. We all, hey, this is self advice. Don't take it too hard. I need to do it too. Found myself recently at the park with my child, arguing with somebody on social media while they were playing. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? This is crazy. Put this damn machine down. All right, Sebastian, Gen Z news.
In a new article, Delia Cali from Business Insider describes Gen Z as the ghosted generation. She writes that Gen Z has infinite possibilities, a click, swipe, or DM away, but never before have young adults had this much access to prospective yeses, and in turn, never before have young adults been told no so frequently. Is this accurate? Do you relate? What do you think about that theory?
Is it about dating?
It's just in general, in terms of like dating, LinkedIn job opportunities, seeing tons of like openings at different jobs that you are applying to with one easy send, and then getting tons of rejections like left and right.
I would have appreciated getting rejections from a lot of the jobs I applied to. A lot of them just never respond. And it's kind of fucked up, because if you have to write a cover letter, which is just a fucking groveling, pathetic document where you're begging to get a job and you're saying, I am going to sacrifice my life. I've never wanted anything more than this stupid fucking job. Like, at least send me a note that says, sorry, we've chosen another candidate. I would say 90% of the job applications I've sent off, I just haven't heard anything back. So you can call Gen Z the ghosted generation, but, you know, prior generations are ghosting quite a bit. I think that it is very professional and respectful to tell somebody who took the time to fill out an application for a job that you're not going to go with them. And that is my truth.
What about dating apps?
I have only used one dating app, and not a lot of dating involved. No comment.
Ghosting. Jessica, do you feel like you're in the ghosted generation?
I don't know. I'm really lucky. I have a really good partner who's like a Midwestern corn-fed, beef-fed boy who has normal values. But I do think in the dating world, because of social media, there are infinite possibilities. And I think people get caught up in the idea that there's always something better out there. And then people are not settling down, and they're letting their avoidant attachment styles win and ending relationships prematurely and not doing the work to have a good, healthy relationship. And as an independent contractor for work, like, there are infinite possibilities, and every day I want to do all of them. And that makes me a bad worker, because you can't do everything, but I want to, and it's all interesting. And I think a lot of Gen Z is like that. They don't know what they want. They want everything, and that makes it hard to plan the day.
We don't show Jessica's partner in crime. We don't show images of him online, but I just wanted to share this picture I have of me, Jessica, and my friend Dante at our friend Jordan Yule's wedding, where she is absolutely serving. It was a joy of a wedding, and Jessica was just wearing the most stunning gown, and I was so taken aback, and I was getting... Are you familiar with the term mogged?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing it, but I don't really quite get it. I don't think.
Okay, I think mogged means somebody in a photograph serving way harder than you are. Jessica, would you say that's right?
Yeah, that's mocked. Like when you take a picture with someone and they're like perfectly Zoolander or voguing and you look kind of like caught out of place.
Jessica mogged me. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in this week.
Excuse me. I had a fucking thought about you guys getting ghosted. I'm going to end on a grumpy old man note. That's the point. That's the point of the show, that we have a grumpy old man with you two. You guys, the Gen Z doesn't know how good they got it. They're getting ghosted more. Do you know what I had to deal with in high school? We had fucking pagers. And so I was not cool. I was in Model UN, and I was trying to start smoking pot and hang out with the cool kids more. But they all had their pot friends group, and I was trying to break into it. And I would go home on Friday night, and I would page one of the pot kids. And I'd have to wait for him to call my home line back to be like, yes, the pot kids are hanging out at this park. Come hang. And sometimes they wouldn't call me back. Maybe because I was being ghosted. Maybe because I was an annoying Model UN kid. Or maybe just because they were really high and they couldn't find a fucking payphone because they had a pager. I want to repeat, they had a pager. And I would sit alone in my home playing video games. And that was sad for me. And I turned out great.
You could have watched like a right-wing Twitch streamer and gotten red pilled.
But yeah, if I was for a different generation, who knows? Maybe I'd be Charlie Kirk. Yeah. Maybe I would be dominating the governor of California in a debate. Who knows? But here I am. So anyway, Gen Z, chill out. Cameron, will you take us out?
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for not ghosting your friends at the FY Pod. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a hoot. Next week, we're going to talk about some extremely pressing issues, possibly the most pressing ones in the United States of America. Tune in Monday night for Tim and I going over the hot button issues with game-changing, rogue, dark horse perspectives. And then next Saturday, we're going to have another guest. And if they are half the guest Jessica was, it is going to be extraordinary. Thank you, everybody. And remember, most importantly, vote.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks for having me, guys. Bye, FYP Nation.